Hey guys, tonight we're going to journey through a part of World War II you've probably never considered. You've just been captured by the Soviet army, and now you find yourself at the mercy of a Soviet POW camp. It's cold, it's harsh, and frankly, you probably won't survive this. But tonight, we'll ease into the experience. From the brutal train ride to the moment you step off the transport and face a new, unimaginable reality. You're not just a soldier anymore. You're a prisoner, just one more face in an endless sea of men. This story isn't about heroism or glory, it's about survival. The struggle to hold on to your humanity when everything around you is designed to strip it away. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I also want to know, where are you tuning in from tonight? What time is it where you are? Share in the comments. I always love seeing where you guys are. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The train ride is your first real taste of what's to come. You're packed in tight with the other prisoners, and you can't even begin to count how many men are stuffed into the carriages. The cold is unrelenting, a bitter wind cutting through every crack in the train. You can hear the rhythmic clank of the wheels on the tracks, but that's the only sound that offers any semblance of normalcy. It's not just the cold you feel. It's the weight of uncertainty, the gnawing fear that you might not survive this journey. The air smells like iron and sweat, mingled with something darker, a kind of desperation that seems to hang over the train like a fog. You look around at the men next to you, their faces pale from exhaustion, some coughing weakly, others staring blankly into space. You try to settle into your seat, but it's impossible to find any comfort here. The ride seems endless, and you can't help but wonder where it's all going. What kind of camp are they taking you to? Will you ever see home again? Every now and then, the train stops for a few minutes, only to start up again with an even sharper screech. There's no explanation, just the cold, mechanical rhythm of the train lurching forward. At times, the train slows to a crawl, but there's no telling where you are. The windows are fogged up, and the only thing you can see outside is an expanse of snow, the kind that stretches for miles without any landmarks to help you know where you're headed. There's a growing sense of isolation, as if you've been forgotten by the world outside. You overhear bits and pieces of conversation between the prisoners, but they're too tired, too resigned to form any meaningful plans. Some talk of escape perhaps. There's a chance, but it's a fleeting thought, quickly dismissed when reality sets in. You're stuck in this cramped, freezing space with no real idea of where the Soviets are taking you. It's like you're in a moving coffin, one that you can't escape from. And then, with a final jarring screech, the train finally comes to a halt. The doors fly open with a rush of cold air, and the men are pushed out into the unforgiving cold. You stumble onto the frozen ground, feeling the bite of the wind cut through your clothes. It's a bitter cold that sinks into your bones, and for the first time, you get a sense of what's to come. The camp is nothing like you imagined. It's worse. The place looks bleak, a barren wasteland of snow, wooden structures, and barbed wire. There's no sign of life, just a lifeless expanse that stretches out under the gray sky. The guards bark orders in a language you can't understand, The Soviet soldiers move with a quiet efficiency, their eyes cold, their rifles slung lazily over their shoulders as they herd the prisoners into lines. The air is thick with tension, but the men move quickly, keeping their heads down, fearing the guards will lash out at any moment. You're just one more soldier, now no longer an individual, but a nameless face in a sea of weary, terrified men. The only thing that's clear is that you're far from home, and you have no idea how long you'll be here. The barracks are hastily constructed, more like a shack than a place to live. There's no insulation, no warmth. The floor is dirt, covered with straw that's been trampled into the ground. The smell hits you first, a mixture of sweat, urine, and the faint odor of death. You take a step inside and pause. The light inside is dim, and the men around you are sitting on the floor, hunched over in silence. Some look at you, but there's no warmth in their eyes, just the same exhaustion and defeat that you feel. You find a spot along the wall, joining the other men who are just as lost and uncertain as you. You haven't eaten in what feels like days, and your stomach growls in protest. But there's no food yet, and no guarantee when the next meal will come. You're just another prisoner now, with nothing but the clothes on your back and the hope that you'll survive long enough to see another day. The cold seeps in, chilling you to the core. You try to sleep, but it's impossible to ignore the gnawing emptiness in your stomach and the sharp pang of fear that keeps you awake. You don't know it yet, but this is only the beginning. The next few days will blur together, endless hours of forced labor, scarce rations, and the unrelenting cold. You'll learn what it means to be truly powerless, to be reduced to a number in a camp where survival is the only thing that matters. But for now, as you sit in the darkness of that first night, you can't shake the feeling that this is a beginning one that you can't escape, no matter how much you wish you could. The train finally comes to a halt. The metal screeches against the tracks, the whine of the brakes cutting through the silence like a predator's hiss. You glance around, eyes wide with uncertainty, as the doors of the train are flung open. A surge of cold air rushes in, biting at your skin like 1,000 needles. You shuffle out with the rest of the prisoners, disoriented, exhausted, and half frozen from the ride. It's a bitter, biting cold that cuts through you like nothing you've ever felt before. You don't know where you are. The landscape outside is bleak, flat, and barren, stretching endlessly in every direction. There's nothing here but a patch of snow-covered ground, a gray sky, and rows of ramshackle buildings. The Soviets have set up camp in a desolate location, far from civilization, far from anything that might make you feel human again. The barracks are poorly constructed, made from hastily put-together timber and corrugated metal. They stand like crumbling monuments to the hopelessness of this place. A rough shove from a Soviet guard forces you forward. You're pushed along, with the rest of the prisoners, herded into a compound surrounded by barbed wire. The guards bark at you in Russian, their harsh commands slicing through the air. You can't understand what they're saying, but you don't need to. The message is clear. You're not supposed to be here. And if you don't follow the rules, you'll quickly find out what happens to those who don't. Fear sinks deep into your gut. This is your new reality now, a place where survival depends on obedience, on silence, and on blending into the shadows. Inside the camp, you're quickly sorted with the other POS. You're all just numbers now, faces in a sea of hopelessness. Some of the men around you look younger than you, their faces pale and gaunt, their eyes hollow from the long days of hunger and deprivation. Others are older, their bodies already broken by years of war. Some stand tall with a look of defiance in their eyes, but you wonder how long that fire will last here. You've heard stories, of course, about what happens in Soviet camps, the brutal treatment, the starvation, the forced labor, but hearing about it and experiencing it are two very different things. As you settle into a corner of the crowded barracks, you realize just how little you have. The clothes on your back are the only possessions you own now. Your uniform is threadbare, the fabric worn thin from months of combat, and your boots are battered and falling apart. The floor of the barracks is dirt and straw, covered in the stink of sweat, urine, and the faint odor of death. You sit on the floor, trying to find some comfort, but the cold seeps into your bones, and your stomach growls in protest. You haven't eaten for what feels like days, and there's no sign of food coming anytime soon. The sound of footsteps echoes through the barracks, and a Soviet guard enters, rifle slung over his shoulder. His face is stern, devoid of any sympathy. He doesn't look at you or the other prisoners. He just surveys the room with a cold, calculating gaze. His presence enough to send a shiver down your spine. He speaks, but you can't understand the words. He gestures toward the door, and the other men begin to rise, moving with the mechanical precision of men who have learned to follow orders without question. You follow suit, joining the line of prisoners shuffling toward the exit. Outside, the sky is still gray, and the wind howls like a wild animal. The guard pushes you toward a line of wooden structure sheds that look like they were thrown together in a hurry. You're herded inside one of these sheds, where you're forced to stand in a line with the other men. The air inside is thick, with the smell of sweat and fear, and you wonder how long you can hold out before the weight of everything finally crushes you. In the days that follow, the routine becomes clear. There is no time for rest, no time for anything but work. The Soviets put you to labor, often in freezing conditions, repairing roads or unloading supplies, all while they watch you closely, waiting for any sign of defiance. There's a cruel irony in it. All these men, who are themselves oppressed by a brutal regime, have become your tormentors. They treat you like animals, but worse, they treat you as though you don't even deserve to be alive yet. Even in these darkest moments, you cling to survival. You learn to endure, to steel yourself against the physical and mental toll of captivity. You learn how to ration the scraps of food they give you, making a meal stretch for days, and how to sleep in fits and starts, finding moments of rest when you can. You form bonds with the other prisoners, alliances built on shared suffering and the faint hope of a future that, while uncertain, is still worth fighting for. But even as you struggle to survive, there's a darker truth that you begin to understand. This is a war of attrition, and the longer you stay here, the more you'll lose. The POW camps aren't designed to nurture life, they're designed to drain it. They break men, strip them of their humanity, and leave them as empty shells. You've already seen it happen to some of the men around you, men who have given up, who've stopped fighting and started fading into nothing. It's a cruel game, and the stakes are higher than you ever imagined. You can feel the weight of it settling over you like a heavy blanket, suffocating you with every passing hour. The days drag on, each one blurring into the next like a dull gray smear across the canvas of your life. At first, the endless routine is what keeps you going. You wake up each morning well. It's more like a shuffle into the light, since the barracks have no windows at the crack of dawn, greeted by the sharp command of a Soviet guard. There's no time to linger or reflect. The work starts immediately. The guards are everywhere, their presence almost oppressive. It's a strange relationship, this dance between you and the men who hold your fate in their hands. They're not your enemies anymore, they're just there, part of the landscape. Some of them, you learn, are indifferent to your suffering. Others seem almost cruel, finding petty ways to break your spirit. But no matter how hard they try to break you, it's the hunger and the cold that are the real enemies now. You and the other prisoners are put to work immediately. The Soviets don't waste time. There's always something that needs fixing, roads to repair, supplies to unload, things to build in the frozen wasteland that is your new world. The work is grueling, but it's not the labor itself that breaks you. It's the knowledge that the work will never end. Every day feels like an endless cycle of exhaustion. You quickly learn the rules of survival. Stay out of the way. Don't draw attention to yourself, and do the work you're given without complaint. Those who stand out, those who don't fit into the rhythm of the camp, tend to disappear. As for food, it's scarce. You're given just enough to survive barely. A piece of stale bread here, a watery soup there, the occasional potato. It's never enough to fill the hunger in your stomach. You've never been so aware of the emptiness inside you. The hunger gnaws at you all day, but it's not just physical. It's the psychological toll of knowing that you're at the mercy of your captors. You're no longer a soldier. You're just another prisoner, just another body, waiting for the inevitable. But it's not just hunger and cold that threaten your survival here. It's the isolation. The camps are designed to strip you of everything: your dignity, your identity, your humanity. You're not treated like a person anymore. You're a number, a prisoner of war, and nothing more. There's no sympathy from the guards, no understanding. If you're lucky, they'll ignore you. If you're not, you'll feel the sting of their cruelty. You quickly realize that survival isn't just about staying alive physically, it's about keeping your mind intact. The psychological toll of captivity is immense. The monotony of the days, the constant fear, the hunger, and the cold slowly eat away at you. There's no escaping it. Some of the men around you break down entirely, consumed by the bleakness of their surroundings. You've heard of men who've gone mad, their minds unraveling under the weight of it all. Some just stop talking, staring off into space with vacant eyes, as though they've already given up on life. But you don't want to be one of them. You can't afford to. You can't let the madness take hold. So, you find ways to keep yourself grounded. You focus on the small things, anything that reminds you of the world outside. Maybe it's a memory of home, something from a life you had before all this madness started. Maybe it's the sound of a bird singing outside the barracks, or the brief moment of warmth when the sun finally breaks through the clouds. Then there's the strange solidarity that begins to form between the prisoners. You notice the men who were once strangers slowly becoming allies. It's not about friendship, really not in the traditional sense, but about survival. You learn to watch each other's backs. to share what little food you get, to offer a kind word when things feel impossible. It's the kind of camaraderie that only forms in the most dire of circumstances, and it's something you'll hold on to as the days pass. In the midst of all this suffering, you also start to notice something strange. Every now and then, the guards will give you a brief moment of respite. Maybe it's a rare day without labor, or perhaps it's a small amount of extra food. You've heard whispers from the other prisoners. Some think it's a sign that the Soviets are trying to break you down with kindness, to make you lose your will to resist. Others say it's just random, a fluke that can't be counted on. Still, these moments are fleeting, and they offer little comfort. The hunger never goes away, and neither does the cold. You're stuck in a cycle where the only certainty is uncertainty. And yet, there's something about the routine, something about the grim predictability of each day that gives you a strange sense of stability. You know what to expect. The guards will march through, barking orders in their harsh language. The work will be tough, the food will be meager. But as long as you keep your head down, as long as you survive the day, you've won a small victory. But this can't go on forever, can it? Something has to change. You've heard rumors among the prisoners about the war's progress. Some say the Allies are gaining ground, that the Germans are on the retreat. But in this camp, time has a funny way of warping. It's impossible to tell if those rumors are true. All you know is that the world outside is slowly shifting, and perhaps, just perhaps, there's a glimmer of hope on the horizon. For now, though, you focus on getting through the next day. You endure, you survive, and that, for the moment, is enough. Life in the Soviet POW camp is a strange, oppressive kind of routine. Each day is almost indistinguishable from the last, with the same tasks, the same hunger, the same cold. You wonder if you've lost track of time altogether. Has it been weeks or just a few days? It's hard to tell. The relentless structure of the camp provides no room for anything outside survival. There's no place for your thoughts to wander. If you're not working or eating, you're thinking about your next move. If there is one dot, and then there's the question of why you're here. You've spent your life fighting for your country, but now, as you stand in line for another meal, you begin to question everything. What exactly is the Soviet approach to prisoners of war? It seems like they view you not as a soldier, not even as a human being, but as an inconvenience. It's hard to escape the feeling that your life means very little in their eyes. And the worst part is, you don't even know if they care whether you survive. You've heard the Soviet guards talk among themselves, a language that's as alien to you as the treatment you're receiving. There's a chilling disregard in their voices, a mix of indifference and hostility. The Soviet regime seems to view prisoners not as soldiers, but as an unwelcome burden, one that doesn't deserve the dignity of a proper POW status. The Geneva Conventions, those rules you learned in your early training, seem to have no weight here. You're not a soldier, you're just a captive, a body to be used and discarded. The treatment is brutal, but there's something insidious about it too. The Soviets don't seem to need to break you down through torture. They just wear you down over time. The work, the cold, the hunger, all of it piles up. You begin to wonder if they've calculated exactly how much suffering they can impose. Before your mind starts to crack, you hear stories from the other men in the camp about how some soldiers, weakened by months of hardship, simply checked out. Some had simply stopped eating or sitting up, or talking. The idea of escaping into madness is a tempting one, but you're not ready to give up. Not yet. You've learned to follow the unspoken rules of the camp, the ones that determine whether you're able to scrape by or not. The first rule is simple. Stay out of trouble. Keep your head down. Keep your mouth shut. If you're quiet enough and you do what's asked of you, the guards might ignore you. Sometimes they look the other way when they see someone too weak or too broken to be of any use. The second rule, however, is less obvious and harder to grasp. It's about survival through solidarity, a kind of unspoken alliance with the other prisoners. You find strength in numbers, and you quickly learn which men are trustworthy and which ones are not. There's one prisoner in particular who seems to be everywhere, always quietly observing, always giving the right look at the right time. You've seen him pull a few of the weaker men aside, offering them food, a kind word, and the rare chance to rest. He's not in charge, but he's become a figure of some importance among the prisoners. It's the little things like that that keep you from losing all hope. Small acts of kindness, like a flicker of warmth in the cold. A reminder that you're not entirely alone. But these moments are fleeting. The camp itself is a machine, a grinding force that never lets up. The work, the hunger, the lack of sleep, the constant threat of violence, it all starts to feel like a punishment you can't escape from. It's not just physical anymore. It's psychological. You begin to question everything. What was your life even for? What is the purpose of this suffering? Then there's the propaganda. It's hard to avoid. Every so often, a Soviet officer will stand in front of the barracks and speak though you can't understand the language. The tone is unmistakable. It's filled with anger and triumph, as if every word is designed to remind you of how insignificant you are in the grand scheme of things. But as time goes on, you start to notice something strange about this propaganda. Even though you don't understand the language, it begins to seep into your mind. It's subtle, but you can feel it. There's a part of you that starts to believe it, even if just for a moment, that perhaps the Soviets really are in the right, and perhaps your own cause wasn't worth fighting for. You struggle to shake off the feeling, but it's there, a constant companion in the quiet moments of the day. You've been isolated from the outside world for so long, and there's no news of what's happening in the war. Every day, you wonder whether the Allies are gaining ground, whether the war is close to ending. But even the smallest rumor is a lifeline. The other prisoners whisper about the state of the war. The rumors are conflicting, but they always speak of hope. One man says the Allies are close to Berlin. Another says that the war is just beginning for the Germans. None of it is clear. And that's the thing about this captivity. It's not just about physical survival. It's about surviving the mental strain of not knowing anything. You're left with nothing but your instincts and a handful of fleeting, vague thoughts of escape. Somewhere, deep inside, you still hold on to the idea that you could escape, that there's some chance you'll walk out of this hellhole. But the longer you stay, the more that hope begins to fade, replaced by a brutal realization. Survival isn't about escape, it's about getting through one more day. The days bleed into one another, and you begin to lose track of time altogether. There are moments, though, when the cold reality of your existence sharpens, like the sudden stab of a needle to the skin. You've become so accustomed to the routine of work, hunger, and cold that it almost feels normal now. But then the hunger hits again, sharp and unforgiving, a gnawing reminder of how much you're really surviving on. That, perhaps more than anything, keeps you tethered to the harsh reality of your situation. The rations here are sparse often, just a few scraps of bread, a watery soup, or a handful of potato slices. It's not enough to sustain you, and the pangs of hunger become a constant companion, growing sharper with each passing day. The irony is cruel. You've learned to ration what little food you get, stretching it out as best as you can, but no matter how clever you are with your portions, it never quite fills the void. You learn to eat quickly, almost instinctively, because there's no guarantee that you'll get another meal. The other prisoners have learned this lesson too. If you're lucky, the guards don't care enough to watch you closely. If you're unlucky, they're right there, watching, measuring, judging. Sometimes you see men fight over scraps. Those who are too weak or too slow get nothing. It's a grim reminder of the laws of this place. The strong survive and the weak ... Well, they fade away quietly without anyone noticing. The struggle for food becomes something more than just a need. It becomes a competition, a test of who can last just a little bit longer than the rest. But it's not just the hunger that wears you down, it's the unrelenting cold. It feels like it's always there, pressing in from all sides. The barracks offer little warmth, and the wind outside cuts through you like a blade. You've tried to stay warm by huddling with the other men, but that only works for so long before your body gives in to the chill. Even the physical exertion of your labor doesn't seem to help. The work might heat you up for a while, but then you return to the barracks and the cold returns, with an intensity that seems to get worse each day. Some prisoners talk about their families, their homes, and what they hope to return to once the war ends. But for most, it's too painful to even think about. The memories of a world that no longer exists seem too distant, too out of reach. You try to hold on to those thoughts, to remember what it was like before all of this. But the longer you're here, the more those memories begin to fade. Faces blur, places become vague, and you start to wonder whether you'll ever find your way back to a world that feels like home. You've heard the stories from the other men about how they've coped with the madness of captivity, how some of them have slipped into a kind of numbness. It's like a shield, they say, a way to protect themselves from the suffocating despair that surrounds them. Some men seem to find solace in small rituals, carving into the walls of the barracks, sharing quiet conversations when the guards aren't looking, or simply lying in their bunks, staring at the ceiling and pretending that the world outside still matters. These little acts of rebellion, of holding on to something that feels human, become more precious than the rations they're given. But even the rituals begin to lose their power after a while. When the world outside seems like a distant memory and the days are only marked by the changing of the seasons, you begin to wonder if there's anything left to hold on to. The Soviets don't seem to care about you, and with each passing day, it feels less and less like anyone ever will. Still, you fight to hold on. The small things, the fleeting moments of kindness between prisoners, the shared glances that tell you that you're not alone in this become lifeline. You cling to these moments like a lifeline, because without them, you'd be adrift in a world that offers no hope. And then, every so often, there's a change, a glimmer of something different. You hear whispers among the prisoners. A guard was seen talking about something. Could it be that the war is changing. Are the Soviets losing ground? You don't know if it's true, but the rumors are enough to stir something inside of you. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for escape, for freedom, for a life beyond this camp. It's the hope that's been buried deep inside, a spark that refuses to die, even in the most hopeless of times. But the rumors, like everything else here, are unreliable. They flicker, die, and are replaced by new stories. The war is always changing, but no one can ever seem to agree on what's happening outside these walls. All you know for sure is that survival isn't just about food or warmth or work. It's about holding on to that small, flickering flame of hope, no matter how faint it gets. You've learned that hope isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's what keeps you moving, keeps you going, when everything around you suggests there's no reason to keep fighting. As much as the Soviets want to break you body and mind, they can't take that away. It's the one thing they can't control. And so, with that thought in mind, you endure. Every cold morning, every back-breaking task, every empty stomach you endure. The hope remains, even if it's just a whisper in the back of your mind. Because if you can hold on to that, if you can survive the horrors of this camp, then maybe you can survive whatever comes next. Word count, 1061. The days are starting to blur together now, their meaning slipping further away. Time has no rhythm in the camp. There's only the constant churn of work, hunger, cold, and the occasional moments of silence, which are quickly filled with the murmurs of other prisoners. It's difficult to pinpoint how long you've been here. A few weeks, a few months. The guards continue their endless patrols, their faces impassive, their rifles heavy with the authority that only seems to grow stronger. In their presence, the question nags at you more and more. How much longer can this go on? You've survived longer than most expected, holding onto whatever scraps of hope and humanity you can find. But each day feels like a long, slow battle to maintain your sanity. Some of the men are beginning to lose that fight. You see them sometimes, staring blankly at nothing, their eyes hollow, their bodies shrunken and weak. They've been crushed, not by the work or the hunger, but by something deeper, something intangible. It's the weight of captivity, the sheer psychological toll of being reduced to nothing more than a prisoner. A body in a camp that feels more like a graveyard than a place of survival. You hear stories about men who snap, who simply cannot endure any longer. Some become withdrawn, barely speaking or even moving, as if they've already given up. Others turn to madness, their minds unraveling under the constant pressure. The camp, with its cold walls, unforgiving labor, and unrelenting guards, is a machine designed to break you body and mind, and it's working. You've seen it happen to others. Men you once knew as strong, with fire in their eyes, now reduced to shadows of themselves. But you're not ready to go down that path. You can't let it happen. So you keep moving, keep working, and keep trying to push the darkness back as best as you can. The work itself has become mechanical. Your body knows what to do, even if your mind doesn't always follow. You've lost count of the days, but the routine is as predictable as the cold air in the morning. You wake, you work, you eat what little food you're given, and you sleep if you're lucky. But it's not enough to make you forget what's happening around you. The other prisoners, too, are struggling with their own battles. You've formed strange alliances, silent agreements, and gestures that speak louder than words. In a place where every prisoner is treated like cattle, where every man is reduced to a number, these bonds are the last pieces of your humanity. You share food when you can, offer quiet comfort when you notice someone slipping into madness, and exchange looks that say more than any conversation could. You hold on to each other because there's nothing else left to hold on to. It's the kind of solidarity that forms only in the darkest corners of existence, where survival is the only thing that matters. Still, it's not easy. There are days when you feel like you've lost everything. The hunger gnaws at you relentlessly. The cold never lets up, and the work, always endless, always demanding, grinds you down further. But there are small moments, 2 brief flashes of respite. A few extra potatoes in the soup one day. A rare moment when the guards don't notice your exhaustion and allow you to rest. These moments don't change your situation, but they provide just enough relief to keep you going. And then, in the distance, there's a change, a whisper in the wind. The Soviet guards, who once seemed omnipotent, are no longer as sure of themselves. You begin to see it in their eyes, the uncertainty, the doubt, the rumors you've heard. Could they be true? Are the Soviets starting to feel the pressure of the war? Could the Allies be close to breaking through? It's hard to tell. The rumors always shift and change, but something in the air feels different. There's an undercurrent of tension among the prisoners, as if everyone is holding their breath, waiting for a sign. Even the guards seem more tense than usual, as if they're not as certain of their own control over the camp. It's subtle, but it's there. The smallest hint of change, the slightest possibility that this nightmare might end. You can't afford to let yourself hope too much, but it's impossible not to notice the shift. The faintest glimmer of possibility shines in the distance. The war might be nearing its end. The whispers about the Allies advancing might be true. You don't know how much of it is just wishful thinking. But there's something that keeps you moving forward, something that tells you to hold on just a little longer. The flicker of hope isn't gone yet. In fact, it's stronger than it's been in months. The question remains, though, can you make it through? Can you survive long enough to see the end of this? Your body is worn down, your mind teetering on the edge of exhaustion, but there's a part of you that refuses to let go. Maybe it's the survivor's instinct, or maybe it's the small bond of solidarity that has formed between you and the other prisoners. But something inside you says you have to keep going, and so you do. Every day, you wake up and face the harsh realities of your captivity. Every day, you fight to hold on to that tiny spark of hope, to keep it from being snuffed out by the cold, the hunger, and the relentless pressure of the camp. Every day, you endure. And for today, at least, that's enough. Days continue to drift by, blending together in a haze of hunger, cold, and exhaustion. You're no longer certain when the last moment of respite was. Maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was weeks ago. The slow passage of time in the camp reality. It's as if time itself is an illusion here. The only markers of the days are the routine's work, food, the cold, and the unrelenting labor that eats up your strength. But there's something else, too. There's something you hadn't noticed before. At first, it's just a glance here and there from the guards, their eyes lingering on you a little too long. They don't speak, don't do anything overtly threatening, but there's something different in the air. The guards aren't the same as they were when you first arrived. There's less certainty in their movements, less confidence in their authority. It's like the weight of their control is beginning to crack. You've heard whispers among the prisoners, small, fleeting rumors about what's happening outside the camp. The Allies, they say, are closer. The Soviets are retreating in some places, advancing in others, but the whispers are always changing. You try not to get your hopes up. Rumors here are often just that, rumors, but something about this feels different. The tension in the air is palpable. You can feel it in the way the guards look over their shoulders, as though they're unsure whether they'll be there tomorrow. It's subtle, but it's there. Are starting to feel the pressure of the war, of the changing tide. You've seen the guards snap at one another more frequently, their nerves getting the best of them. There's an unease that wasn't there before. The work continues, but now it feels different. There's less of an urgency in the guards. Orders, as if they're going through the motions, tired of enforcing the routine. The prisoners, of course, notice it too. You catch glances exchanged between men, some with uncertainty, others with a strange glimmer of hope in their eyes. While it means there's a small flicker of freedom, it also means there's a greater risk of being punished for any mistake. The hunger still gnaws at you. You've learned to ration better, to make even the smallest portion stretch as far as it can. But even with the small victories, the ache never really goes away. The cold is the same as always. There's no escaping it. But now, it's not just the physical discomfort that gets to you. It's the psychological toll. You've started to wonder if you'll ever feel warmth again, if you'll ever taste a real meal, if you'll ever be anything but a prisoner. Still, you push forward. You remind yourself that survival is the only thing that matters now. Hope, whether it's the whispers about the Allies or the uncertainty you sense in the guards, has become a dangerous thing. It's a thing that could break you if you let it. You've seen it happen to others, men who let their hope slip away, who let the promise of freedom blind them to the reality of their situation. Those men are the ones who disappear. They give up, stop caring, and fade into nothing. You can't afford to fade. Not yet. Not when there's still a chance, however slim, of surviving. There are moments when you want to let go, to slip into the darkness. But then you remember that tiny flicker of hope that's been keeping you going. It's fragile, yes, but it's enough to hold on to for now. You can't let it die. The days continue, each one a slow crawl toward something you can't quite name. There's a growing sense of tension, a quiet fear that permeates the camp. The guards are starting to show signs of confusion, more mistakes, more missed opportunities to punish prisoners. It's like the Soviets, too, are becoming aware of the changing tide of war, the possibility that they may soon lose control. You can see it in their eyes, in the way they look away, the way they stop demanding the impossible. The routines start to slip, and with them, you feel something shift inside you. A small part of you dares to imagine what might happen next. The rumors are getting stronger now. The prisoners talk more openly about the Allies. But even as you entertain the thought, you know that hope is a dangerous thing here. It can blind you, make you careless. You've heard enough stories about prisoners who allowed themselves to dream of escape, only to have their hopes dashed, their bodies broken. But it's harder to ignore the shift. The tension is rising. And it's not just among the prisoners. The guards seem on edge, unsure of what to expect. They look over their shoulders more often, speak in quick, hushed tones. The once steady rhythm of camp life seems a little more disjointed now, a little more chaotic. It's as if something is unraveling, though you can't quite put your finger on it. Whatever it is, it's clear. Change is coming. You've survived this far by sticking to the rules, by working hard, keeping your head down, and focusing only on getting through the day. But now, the rules are starting to change. The guards, the camp, even the war itself are all starting to shift. And for the first time in a long while, you can't help but wonder if survival is about to take on a new meaning. The sense of anticipation in the camp has become undeniable. It's in the air, hanging around like a storm cloud, thick and heavy. The guards are increasingly erratic, their once tight control slipping like sand through an hourglass. The tension among the prisoners is palpable. Everyone's been waiting, watching, hoping. The whispers are louder now, more frequent. Some say the war is nearly over. Others aren't so sure, but there's a new, subtle sense of possibility that hasn't been there before. You've noticed it in yourself, too. It's hard to shake the feeling that something is about to happen, something big, something that will change everything. You've held on to your hope all this time, carefully nurturing that flicker in the back of your mind. But now it feels like the whole camp is holding its breath. The possibility of escape, of freedom, no longer feels like a distant dream. It feels real, almost tangible. Of course, you're careful not to get too excited. You've seen men break down before, men who allowed themselves to believe in rumors, in hope, only to be crushed by the harsh reality of the camp. So you keep it in check. Keep your head down and try not to get caught up in the frenzy of hope that's spreading among the prisoners. But it's hard not to get swept up in it, especially now that the Soviets seem more distracted, more distant. The guards are still there, still patrolling, but there's a certain sloppiness in their movements. They don't seem as sure of themselves as they once did. You can see it in their eyes. They're unsure, maybe even afraid. The work continues, of course. There's always something to be done. But today, as you haul the same heavy loads of supplies across the frozen ground, you notice the guards are less attentive, less vigilant. There's a slip here, a missed command there, and you can't help but wonder, are they becoming complacent? Is it the weight of their own uncertainty, or have they simply stopped caring? Either way, it's the first crack in the walls of control, and it doesn't go unnoticed. The prisoners notice, too. You hear them muttering among themselves. Some are talking about making a move. If we can get out of here, one man says, we'll have a chance. It's only a matter of time now. His voice is barely more than a whisper, but it carries a weight of belief that stirs something deep within you. Could it be true? Could there really be a chance to escape? For now, you don't act on it. You've learned that action in a place like this comes with a heavy price. But the idea of escape, of freedom, starts to take root. The seed is planted every day. As you wake up and face the same grim reality, you think about it more. Could this be the moment when things change? Could the end of the war be on the horizon? But then, just as quickly, you remind yourself of the risks. The guards are still there, still dangerous, and a misstep could be fatal. There's no room for mistakes in a place like this. You've seen it happen. Prisoners who tried to act too quickly, who gave in to their desperation and were punished. Escape is a dream that comes with a cost, and that cost can be steep. And yet, despite everything, despite the danger, there's something inside you that's stirring a defiance that refuses to be smothered by the weight of captivity. You've been here too long to be anything but a survivor. The desire to fight, to break free, is more than just a fleeting thought now. It's a need, a hunger that matches the emptiness in your stomach. The cold, the hunger, the pain, they all become secondary to this one driving force, the need to escape. You start to observe the guards more closely now. You watch the way they move, the way they look at each other, the subtle cracks in their once imposing presence. Some of them are younger, and you see the uncertainty in their faces. Others are older, tired, and worn by the weight of the war. There's a weakness in them now, vulnerability you never noticed before. It's like the Soviets themselves are unsure of their power, unsure of their future. The days continue to pass in a blur, but now there's a new rhythm to the camp. It's quieter than before, but in that silence, there's a buzz of expectation. The other prisoners are starting to take notice, too. There's a new urgency in their movements, a tension in the air that can't be ignored. Even the guards seem more uncertain, their once pristine routines slipping as the war moves closer to its inevitable end. You wonder, for the first time, if the end of this hellish existence is just beyond the horizon. The glimmer of hope is no longer a small flicker in the back of your mind. It's a roaring fire now, and it spreads among the prisoners, a collective belief that something is changing. But even as you allow yourself to feel it, to believe it for a moment, you can't let go of the fear that this could all come crashing down. Hope, you've learned, is a dangerous thing, but in the silence of the camp, as you watch the guards, as you feel the weight of possibility settle in your chest, you can't help but wonder, what if this is it? What if this is the moment? Everything changes. For now, though, you wait, you watch, you survive. There's a strange sort of stillness that has settled over the camp. It's a heavy silence, one that is almost unnerving. The guards, who once moved with mechanical efficiency, now seem slower, more distracted. The tension among the prisoners has shifted to, instead of the usual hopelessness, there's a sort of quiet anticipation in the air. Like everyone is waiting for something to happen, something to change. No one speaks of it directly, but you can feel it in the subtle glances exchanged between men, in the quiet conversations when the guards aren't listening. It's the feeling that something is imminent, that the end is near, though no one knows what that end will look like. Every day, you wake up with the same routine, the sharp command of a Soviet guard, the cold, the hunger, the work. But now, there's something different about the way the guards behave. They seem less sure of themselves, less authoritative. It's as if they, too, are waiting for something, for an answer they don't have. Their once stern faces are occasionally marked by a fleeting look of uncertainty, and their eyes dart around the camp, as though they expect something to happen, something they can't control. The cracks in their facade are becoming more visible, more pronounced. You've seen enough to know that this shift in the guards' behavior isn't just a fluke. They're on edge. You've seen them bicker more often now, argue among themselves, in hushed voices that are too quiet for you to fully understand. They've always been stern, yes, but this nervousness, this uncertainty, is something new. They no longer seem like the implacable force they once were. There's a fear in their eyes, a fear of losing control. You know this well because it mirrors something you felt yourself. The war is slipping away from them. Maybe, just maybe, the Soviets are losing their grip on the camp. The rumors keep circulating among the prisoners, each version a little different, but they all point toward the same conclusion. The Allies are getting closer. The Russians are retreating in some places, advancing in others, but the momentum seems to be shifting. No one can say for sure what's going on, but there's a new sense of urgency in the air. The men talk of escape more openly now, though. They do so in whispers. The thought is no longer as impossible as it once seemed. The idea of freedom, of surviving long enough to leave this place behind, is no longer just a dream. It feels within reach, but still, the risks are enormous. You've seen what happens to those who act too quickly, too recklessly. There are whispers of men who tried to escape, in the past men who were caught, punished, or worse. But something in you has shifted. You're no longer the soldier who entered this camp, resigned to whatever fate awaits. You've changed. The need to survive, the need to escape, has grown stronger. And now it's more than just a flicker of hope. It's a fire, one that burns brighter with every passing day. As you think about the idea of escape, the possibilities and dangers begin to form in your mind. You know the camp better now than you ever thought you would. The layout of the place, the routines of the guards, the gaps in the system, these are all things you've observed and memorized. It's like a puzzle, one that's taken shape slowly over time. You've heard stories of prisoners who managed to escape, though none of them ended well. Still, there are cracks in the system. There are always cracks in the system. But you're not foolish. You know that the risks are high and the consequences of failure are catastrophic. There are guards posted everywhere, with rifles trained on you at all times. The barbed wire that surrounds the camp is a constant reminder of how close freedom is and how far away it seems. Still, you can't shake the thought that if you wait too long, you'll miss your chance. The changes you've seen, the uncertainty, that the Soviets are showing, these things won't last forever. Sooner or later, the war will be over. The Allies will arrive, and the camp will either be liberated or fortified, but in either case, it will no longer be the same. The window for escape will close. The men around you feel it too. They're restless. You can see it in the way they move now, in the way their eyes dart around the camp, looking for any sign that this is their moment. No one is foolish enough to try anything outright yet, but the tension is building, slowly but surely. Everyone is waiting for the right moment, the right sign that now is the time, and then, one day, something happens. It's subtle at first. There's a change in the guards' behavior, another crack in their armor. You notice it during your daily work, as you're shoveling snow off the road with the other men. A guard walks past, his rifle slung carelessly over his shoulder. He doesn't even look at you. It's a small thing, but in this place, it feels like a small victory. You can't help but wonder, could it be happening? Could the change that's been building finally be here? You don't act immediately. You can't. You need to stay cautious, to wait for more signs, more shifts in the pattern. But there's something inside you that begins to stir with anticipation. The war is changing, the camp is changing, and you can't afford to miss your chance. You've survived this far, endured this long, and now it feels like something is finally shifting in your favor. You don't know what will happen next. You don't know if the Allies are really close, or if this is all just a fleeting moment of hope. But what you do know is that for the first time in a long while, you have a reason to believe that you might, just might, make it out of this camp alive. The future is still uncertain, but one thing is clear. You're no longer waiting for someone else to change your fate. Now you're the one taking charge. The days are growing longer, the tension heavier. You can feel the weight of everything in the air. Each moment feels like it could be the turning point. The guards, still on edge, move with less authority than before. Their vigilance has slipped. Their routines have become more disjointed, and their eyes betray a sense of uncertainty. They're no longer the confident force they once were. Instead, they seem to be moving on autopilot, unsure of what's really happening. You wonder if they too are feeling the pressure of the shifting war, as though the inevitable end is bearing down on them, just like it is on you. The camp itself is quieter, too, in a strange, almost unnerving way. It's as if everyone is holding their breath, waiting for the next move. The usual noise of prisoners grumbling about their rations, of work being done in a half-hearted manner, is now replaced by hushed whispers and furtive glances. Men who had long ago accepted their fate now talk of escape, of freedom, as though it's within reach. There's a palpable sense that something is coming, something that could change everything. But you remain cautious. You've seen how hope can blind a man, make him reckless. You've seen what happens when a man lets his desire for freedom override his judgment. The camp has taken men before, broken them, beaten them down until they were no more than shells of themselves. You've heard the stories, prisoners who've gotten too close to the wire, too desperate in their attempts to escape, only to be caught and punished. Some of them are gone, their bodies never found, their names forgotten. The price of failure here is high, and you've learned to weigh every decision carefully. Still, despite the danger, you can't ignore the small changes in the camp. It's subtle, in fact, that you almost wonder if you're imagining it. But the cracks in the system are there. The guards' authority is slipping, their once disciplined patrols growing more erratic. You've watched them fumble with their rifles, seen them whisper to each other in ways that speak of confusion. It's a shift you can't ignore. And then it happens. It's not a grand moment, not a dramatic turning point, but a quiet shift, like a door creaking open. You're on your way to work, shuffling along with the other prisoners, when you notice something. One of the guards, younger than the others, is standing off to the side, his attention divided between you and a few of his comrades. He's distracted, his posture lax. He doesn't see you. You don't make a move, but the opportunity is there, just a whisper away. The fear that always lingered in the back of your mind rises again, that gnawing doubt that keeps you grounded. But there's something else now, something sharper, more focused, a sense of clarity. The possibility of escape, once a distant, impossible dream, is now within reach. The camp, with its walls and barbed wire, feels a little less imposing. The guards, who once seemed like an insurmountable force, now feel human, flawed, uncertain, vulnerable. You've studied them long enough to know that no system is perfect, no guard infallible, and in that moment, as you see one of them lose his focus, the realization hits. This might be your chance, but the risk is still there. You've learned that you can't just rush in headlong. If you act too quickly, too boldly, it will be over before it starts. You know that any move you make has to be calculated, precise. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and the cost could be your life. But you're ready, now ready, to take the risk. Not all the guards are distracted, but enough of them are. The camp itself seems to be shifting, and if you can just wait for the right moment, you might have a chance to slip away. You think back to everything that brought you to this point. The hunger, the cold, the suffering, the men who didn't make it, the ones who gave up, who broke under the weight of it all. Their faces flash before your eyes, reminders of how fragile hope can be in a place like this. You know that you can't let yourself become like them, that you can't let the camp break you. If you're going to make it out, if you're going to survive, you'll need to act. It's not about hoping for someone else to come and rescue you. It's about seizing that glimmer of opportunity. That fleeting moment when the world outside the camp feels a little bit closer. And now, with the camp so quiet, with the guards so distracted, you feel that moment arriving. It's there in the tension of the air, in the way the guards no longer command the same unshakable presence. You've waited for this for so long, and now it's time to act. You don't know what will happen. You don't know where this will lead. But you know one thing for certain. You're not waiting anymore. The camp won't define you. You will make your move. You will escape. The plan begins to form in your mind. It's not perfect, and it's not without risk, but it's the only one you have. Your eyes flicker over the landscape of the camp, past the guards, past the barbed wire. You picture the path in your mind, the way you'll have to move, the way you'll have to blend into the shadows. The key is to stay unnoticed, to remain invisible. You can't afford to be seen, not for a second. But the more you think about it, the more it feels possible. The feeling of freedom, once so distant, is now within grasp. The window is small. The opportunity may only last a moment, but that's all you need. The next few hours pass slowly, each one a delicate dance between caution and anticipation. You watch, wait, and listen. And when the moment comes, you know you'll be ready. The wait feels longer now, each second stretching into eternity. You can feel the nervous energy rising in the pit of your stomach, a mix of fear and excitement that only grows stronger as the hours tick by. You've done all you can to prepare, to observe, to find the cracks in the system. The guards, more distracted than ever, continue their rounds, unaware of the shift in the air. It's like they've let their guard down, just enough to let you slip through. You can hear the sound of boots shuffling, the occasional barked order in Russian, the distant hum of the camp, but it feels less oppressive than before. The guards no longer seem invincible, their presence no longer a constant, suffocating weight. For the first time, you realize that you are no longer a prisoner in the way you once were. You've been reduced to nothing, yes, but now you feel a flicker of power, a tiny thread of control. You shift into position, moving carefully through the camp, staying in the shadows, keeping close to the buildings and away from the watchful eyes of the guards. You've spent weeks, maybe months, preserving every detail of the camp. The patrol routes, the times the guards change shifts, the places where they're most likely to slack off. It's all coming together now. A plan forged from desperation, hope, and the cold knowledge that you have no other choice. The camp, which was once so suffocating, now feels like a maze, a series of obstacles you've learned to navigate. Every step feels like a risk, but it's a risk you're willing to take. The guards seem less attentive than usual, their chatter more distant, their movements slower. You don't know why. Maybe it's because they, too, are feeling the pressure of the war, the uncertainty of what comes next. But whatever the reason, you know this is your moment. You reach the outer perimeter, where the barbed wire looms like a looming wall of iron teeth. The first time you saw it, it felt impenetrable, an unbreakable barrier. But now, as you stand before it, you see it differently. The wires are still sharp, still deadly. But there are gaps, small spaces, where the wire has come loose, where the tension is just a little weaker. You've noticed these spots over the days, the subtle shifts in the wire that most of the guards haven't caught. The timing has to be perfect. One false move, and you'll be caught, and the consequences of that are too high to even think about. Your heart is pounding in your chest as you move toward the wire, your hands trembling slightly, but you push the fear down. You've made it this far, and you're not stopping now. Slowly, carefully, you begin to slip through the gaps in the wire, your body bending in ways that make you feel like a shadow, like you're becoming part of the night itself. The barbed wire scrapes your skin, a sharp reminder of what's at stake, but you ignore it. This is the moment you've been waiting for what feels like an eternity. You crawl inch by inch, squeezing through the wire, holding your breath, praying that no one notices, praying that the guard doesn't turn his head at just the wrong moment. The pain from the wire pressing into your skin is sharp, but it's nothing compared to the hunger, the cold, the years of captivity. You've endured all of that. This pain is nothing. And then, finally, you're through. The barbed wire is behind you. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you're on the outside. The camp is still there, looming behind you, but you're free. The air smells different, here fresher, colder. You can hear the wind rustling through the trees, the distant sound of a world that isn't trapped behind barbed wire. But you know that this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. You're not out of danger yet. The camp is still within reach, and the guards will be looking for you soon. You can't let your guard down, not for a second. You need to keep moving, to blend into the night, to find cover and find your way to safety. You take your first steps away from the camp, careful, methodical, each movement deliberate. The world outside feels like a foreign place, a place you haven't touched in years. The land is dark and quiet, but there's a strange sense of freedom in it, something that feels like hope, something you haven't allowed yourself to feel. For so long, the stars above seem brighter here, and the world feels vast, as though there's finally room to breathe. You keep moving, your body exhausted but fueled by the adrenaline coursing through your veins. The path ahead is uncertain, and you don't know where it leads, but it's a path that belongs to you now. You can't stop, can't afford to look back. Every step takes you farther from the prison that has been your world for so long. There are still risks, still dangers, lurking in the night. You don't know how far you can get, or how long it will take to find safety. But the one thing you do know is that you've taken control of your own fate. The camp, the guards, the hunger, the cold, they're all behind you now. You don't know what the future holds, but for the first time, it feels like it belongs to you. And for the first time, in what feels like forever, you allow yourself to hope. You don't know what's ahead, but you know that you've made it this far, and that's enough to keep you going. The night is quiet, but every step you take is filled with the echoes of the camp you've just left behind. The freedom you feel isn't immediate. There's no celebration, no joyous sense of liberation. Instead, there's an overwhelming sense of urgency. You know you've taken a monumental step, but the path ahead is fraught with dangers. The further you move from the camp, the more vulnerable you feel. The landscape around you is vast, almost intimidating in its emptiness, but the stars above, though distant, offer a strange sense of reassurance. For the first time in years, you're no longer confined by the walls, by the routines, by the cold indifference of the Soviet guards, but that freedom is a double-edged sword. There's no safety here, just wilderness, the unknown, and the ever-present knowledge that the guards will soon notice you're missing. The camp, though distant, is still within their reach. The silence of the night is broken only by the sound of your breath, the crunch of snow beneath your feet, and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. You feel exposed, vulnerable, but the taste of fresh air, of the world outside, is enough to keep you moving forward. You've heard the stories about men who tried to escape and were caught, punished, or worse. About prisoners who believed they could outrun the Soviet machine, only to be hunted down and dragged back into captivity. The fear of being discovered, of failing now after all you've endured, is a constant companion, one that gnaws at you as you trek through the cold. It's hard to ignore, but there's something deeper in you now, something that refuses to let you stop. Every step is calculated, every moment of rest taken with caution. You can't afford to make any noise, any mistake. The night is your ally, but it's also a reminder of how exposed you are. The camp is miles behind you, but the guards could still be out looking for you. The isolation feels different now, like you're moving between two worlds, the world of the camp, where you were a prisoner, and the world of freedom, which is still just out of reach. You follow the landscape as best as you can, using the cover of the trees and the shadows of the hills. It's slow going, but you move with purpose, knowing that each mile you put between yourself and the camp is a small victory. The hunger that once gnawed at you is still there, a dull ache in your stomach, but you don't stop. You can't. You've come too far. As you move deeper into the wilderness, a sense of disorientation begins to creep in. The world is unfamiliar, and you don't know what direction to head in. You've learned to survive in the camp, to endure whatever the Soviets threw at you. But out here, the rules are different. There are no routines, no guards to give you the rhythm of the day. It's just you, the dark, and the cold. But as time passes, you notice something. You're not alone. The wilderness, vast and seemingly empty, is filled with life. You hear the occasional animal scurry through the underbrush, the distant hoot of an owl, or the crunch of footsteps from another escaping soul. It's a reminder that you're not the first to try to break free. There's a camaraderie in that thought, a sense that you're part of a long history of men who fought for their freedom, who didn't give up. The stories of those who made it, who escaped to the West, who found safety, fuel your resolve. It's the same resolve that's been keeping you going for days. Survival. At some point, exhaustion sets in. Your body aches from the constant movement, from the cold, from the strain of the journey. You find shelter for a brief moment, crouching under a thick tree that offers some cover from the wind. Your eyes close for just a moment, but when you open them again, The world around you is still and quiet, save for the whispering wind. You don't dare sleep for long. You know that staying in one place too long could be dangerous. But there's something oddly comforting in the stillness of the night. The stars above are brighter than you ever remembered, and the silence that envelops you feels like freedom, even if it's fleeting. The hunger still gnaws at your insides, but it's not as loud now. It's been overshadowed by the overwhelming feeling of being out of reach, of no longer being a prisoner. But then, as the night deepens and the cold seeps deeper into your bones, the reality of your situation sets in again. You can't stay here forever. The camp will soon realize you're gone, and the search will begin. The fear that you may not survive, that you'll be recaptured, or worse, lingers in the back of your mind. You've escaped, yes, but the world beyond the camp is just as dangerous. The wilds aren't your home. They're unfamiliar and unforgiving. You've lived through worse, but the thought of being hunted down, caught in this vast wilderness, is a chilling one. Still, there's something inside you that refuses to let go of hope. Hope is a strange thing. In a place like this, it's fragile, fleeting, and often crushed by the harshness of the world. But you've seen men die without it, and you've seen men survive because they refused to let go. That's what keeps you moving now, that small spark of belief that maybe, just maybe, you can make it. You gather yourself together, pushing the fear aside, and begin moving once more. The wilderness may be cold, but it's also free. You don't know what lies ahead, whether the Soviets will catch up to you, or whether you'll find a way to safety. But for now, that doesn't matter. What matters is that you're alive and you're free. And for now, that's enough to keep you moving forward. You keep moving, one foot in front of the other, a rhythmic, quiet dance that keeps you anchored in the present. Every step away from the camp is a victory, but each one also brings a new set of challenges. The forest feels endless, dark, silent, and disorienting. You've left behind the barbed wire, the guards, the bleakness of the camp. But now you're in a world where nothing is certain. The trees, heavy with snow, loom like silent sentinels, offering both cover and confusion. You try not to focus on how far you've come or how much further you still need to go. The fear of being caught, the uncertainty of your escape, whispers in your mind like the wind through the branches. But for now, the night is yours. The hours pass, and you move deeper into the wilderness. The hunger still claws at your insides, sharp and persistent, but you push it aside. Survival is more than just feeding yourself. It's about holding on to the one thing that you still have, hope. You know that if you stop, even for a moment, if you give in to the exhaustion, the hunger, or the fear, you risk everything. The constant drive to survive keeps you going, each step carrying you further from the nightmare you left behind. It's not long before you hear the unmistakable sound of boots crunching through the snow behind you. Your heart stops, and the adrenaline hits your bloodstream like a surge of electricity. For a split second, you think it's the guards, that they've found you, that you're about to be dragged back to the hell you've just escaped. The fear is suffocating, and you freeze, holding your breath, waiting for the inevitable footsteps to get closer. The sound of movement doesn't stop. You feel your pulse quicken, but you stay still, not daring to move, not daring to make a sound. But then, just as quickly as the sound of the boots begins, it fades. It's not the guards. It's something else, something unfamiliar. perhaps another prisoner making their way through the forest, or an animal hunting in the night. You wait, tense, listening for any further sounds. The forest is silent again, save for the occasional rustle of leaves. After what feels like an eternity, you finally let out a breath. You continue your journey, but the sense of danger hasn't left. It lingers in the back of your mind, reminding you that you can never truly let your guard down. The night stretches on, and with it, your fatigue. Your legs ache from the long hours of walking. Your stomach protests, and your body is starting to show the signs of wear. The cold is constant, biting at your skin, but you push on. You've made it this far, and you refuse to stop now. As you move through the thick trees, you begin to notice the faint lightening of the sky in the east. Dawn is coming. The night, though it feels endless, is drawing to a close, and with the daylight comes new challenges. The fear of being discovered, of being seen by any passing guard or patrol, is still heavy on your mind. But the light is a double-edged sword. While it might make it harder for anyone to find you, it also means you'll be more exposed by the time the first rays of dawn start to break over the horizon. You've found shelter again, though not much. A thick patch of trees offers a bit of cover, and you huddle there for a brief respite. You don't allow yourself to sleep. Instead, you sit with your back against the trunk of a tree, watching the world begin to wake up. The cold air bites at your face, but it's oddly comforting. It reminds you that you're still alive, that you've made it through the night. As the light grows stronger, you consider your next move. You know that staying put for too long is dangerous, that the longer you rest, the more likely you are to be discovered. But your body needs this moment, just a few minutes to recover. You let yourself close your eyes for a second, just long enough to regain your bearings. You're not out of danger yet, not by a long shot, but you're still alive. You can still make it. The sun begins to rise fully, casting long shadows across the snowy landscape. The world is still vast and unfamiliar, but the warmth of the morning light gives you hope. For the first time, you feel like you might be able to survive this. The fear and the cold, the uncertainty and the hunger are all still present. But you've made it through the darkest part of the night. You've made it this far, and with each passing hour, you move further from the camp, further from the nightmare you've just escaped. The thought of freedom, of what lies beyond the wilderness, keeps you moving. The world outside feels large, overwhelming, but there's a strange sense of freedom in that vastness. You're no longer constrained by the walls of the camp. You're free, and that freedom, though fragile, is yours to hold on to. The next step is still uncertain, but for now, you take it, one foot in front of the other. As the sun rises higher, you feel something else shift inside you, a realization that no matter what happens next, you've taken control of your fate. You've escaped, and for that, there is no turning back. Whatever comes next, whatever dangers lie ahead, you will face them on your own terms. You're alive, and that's more than you could have hoped for when you first walked into that camp. You take a deep breath, steady your resolve, and begin to move once more. The journey is far from over, but for the first time in a long time, you feel like you have the strength to face it. The camp is behind you, and the world is waiting. The day stretches on, and as you push forward through the snow, the isolation begins to settle in. You've spent so much time in the camp, surrounded by the noise, the chaos, and the struggle for survival. that the silence of the wilderness feels almost unnatural. The world outside the barbed wire is vast and empty, and though the air is crisp and the morning light brightens the snow, there's still a sense of desolation that surrounds you. It's easy to become lost in your thoughts out here, and with every step, the weight of everything you've been through presses down on you. The hunger is gnawing at you again, though not as relentlessly as before. Your stomach growls, a constant reminder of how far you've come from the meager rations of the camp. You think back to those endless meals of watery soup and stale bread, always just enough to keep you alive, but never enough to truly satisfy. It seems like a lifetime ago that you stood in that line waiting for the next meager portion, but it also feels like only yesterday. The hunger, the cold, the exhaustion, they're all a part of you now, woven into the fabric of your survival. But now you are free. The cold still clings to your bones, but it's different now. You're not trapped by it. You have the choice to move, to fight for your survival in a world that feels less like a cage and more like an open frontier. The wilderness is indifferent to your presence, but in its indifference, there is something liberating. There are no guards, no constant threats hanging over you. You take each step carefully, but there is a freedom in it, however fleeting that freedom may be. The terrain begins to change as you move deeper into the wilderness. The snow-covered trees thin out, and the landscape shifts, becoming more rocky, more rugged. The mountains rise in the distance, and you know that the further you go, the more difficult the journey will become. You've heard stories of others who escaped only to be lost in the wilds, never making it far enough to find safety. The wilderness may be freeing, but it's also dangerous, unforgiving. There's no guarantee that you'll survive the elements, the cold, or the hunger, but you refuse to think like that. You've already beaten the odds. You've survived the camp. You've escaped. You're alive, and that's more than anyone could have expected. As you walk, you start to make plans, imagining the path ahead. The mountains seem daunting, but they're not impassable. If you can make it that far, if you can find a way to cross them, there's a chance, just a chance, that you'll find something better. A village, perhaps, or an outpost where you can find food and shelter. The stories of escapees who made it out, who survived and found their way to safety, keep you moving. But those stories also remind you of the price of failure. The men who didn't make it, the ones who were found, dragged back to the camp, and left to suffer. The ones who never had the strength to continue, who gave in to the madness of captivity or to the elements that tore them apart. It's not lost on you that there's still a very real risk that you could be caught, that you could die in the wilderness just as easily as you could have died in the camp. The uncertainty of what lies ahead hangs over you, but you push it away, focusing on the steps you need to take now. In this moment, you find shelter again as the evening approaches, a small cave hidden among the rocks. The cold is unbearable now, and you can feel the weariness creeping in. The hunger gnaws at you, but you force yourself to ignore it. There's nothing to be done about it now. You're alive, and that's all that matters. You take what little you have left, just a few scraps of bread and some water, and settle in for the night. As you lie there, staring up at the rocky ceiling of your shelter, you let your mind wander. The memories of the camp, of the other prisoners, of the guards, seem so distant now. They feel almost like a bad dream, something that happened to someone else. You realize just how much you've changed since you first arrived there. You were once a soldier, part of a larger machine, fighting for your country. But now, you are something different. You are a survivor. The man who walked into that camp is gone, replaced by someone who has endured, who has fought against the odds and come out the other side. You've lost so much, but you've gained something too. You've gained strength, resilience, and, most importantly, the knowledge that you can survive. As the night deepens, you finally allow yourself to sleep, though it's fitful. The cold makes it hard to stay comfortable, and every sound in the wilderness feels like a threat. But you've made it this far. That's all that matters. You've taken control of your fate. The journey is far from over, but for the first time, you feel like you have a chance, no matter how slim it may be. When you wake the next morning, the sun is just beginning to rise, casting a pale light across the snow-covered ground. You pack your things, gather what little you have left, and set off again. The mountains loom ahead, still far off, but each step you take brings you closer to them. The future is uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, you feel like it belongs to you. Whatever lies ahead, you'll face it on your terms. The days blur together now, each one like the last, but with an intensity that's entirely new. The mountains are closer, their peaks rising sharply against the horizon, a distant promise of both danger and possibility. You feel it in every step you take, the pull of the wilderness that demands more than just your physical endurance. It demands your spirit, your will to keep moving, no matter the cost. It's strange, but in the solitude of the wild, with the wind howling and the snow falling softly around you, you feel a sense of clarity. You're not a soldier anymore, not just a man caught in the machinery of war. You are a survivor, and that's what this journey is about. Now survival. You've learned that survival is more than just food and shelter. It's about holding on to the things that make you who you are, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. The hunger gnaws at you, the cold seeps into your bones, and the exhaustion becomes a constant companion. But there's something inside you that refuses to give up. You are not a prisoner anymore. You're free. That thought is both a relief and a weight, a truth that sits heavy on your chest as you navigate this vast, unforgiving land. The mountains are no longer a distant idea, but something you must face head-on. The snow becomes deeper, the terrain more treacherous. Every step up the rocky path is a challenge, each one harder than the last. But you push forward. The air grows thinner as you ascend, and your breath comes in sharp gasps, but you don't stop. You can't. You think of the camp behind you, the days you spent in captivity, the constant hunger, the endless cycle of work, and the looming threat of the guards. It all feels like a nightmare now, something that happened to someone else, a life you've left behind. The landscape before you is raw, untamed, but it's yours now. Every inch of it belongs to you as much as it belongs to the wind and the snow. You think of the others you left behind, the men still trapped in the camp, the ones who couldn't make it out, and a pang of guilt creeps in. You're here because of your will to survive, your ability to keep going when it felt like there was nothing left to fight for. But some of them didn't have that. Some of them gave in to the despair. You can't dwell on that, though. You can't carry their weight with you now. You have to keep moving forward. You find shelter in a small cave once again. the wind howling outside, but inside, there's a small sense of safety. It's not warmth, but it's out of the elements, and for now, that's enough. The hunger is still there, but it's become a dull ache, something that doesn't scream as loudly as it did when you first escaped. You've learned to ration, to make do with what little you have, and every meal, however small, feels like a victory as you sit in the cave, staring out at the storm that's beginning to build. You realize just how far you've come. The journey is far from over, and the dangers are still very real. But you've made it this far. You've outlasted the camp, you've outlasted the cold, and you've outlasted the fear. You're still here, you're still alive, and that's all that matters. The storm rages on through the night, and you lie awake in the cave, listening to the wind, the creaking of the rocks, the distant rumble of thunder. It feels like the world is alive around you, alive in a way that you've never experienced before. The camp was suffocating, stifling, but this is freedom. Even in the darkness, even in the storm, there is something beautiful about the vastness of the world around you. The night sky, the mountains, the wilderness all seems so big, so much bigger than the small, claustrophobic world you left behind. And for the first time, you allow yourself to think that maybe, just maybe, you'll find your way out of this. You wake up the next morning to find the storm still raging, but you know you can't stay here forever. You can't afford to wait too long. You gather your things and set off once again, feeling the weight of the journey pressing down on you, but also the fire of determination that's kept you going all this time. Each step you take is a declaration of survival, of defiance. You're not a prisoner anymore. You're a man moving forward, moving toward something better. The mountains are still ahead, towering and imposing, but they no longer seem as impossible as they once did. You can see a way forward now, a way out. The land stretches out before you, and the world feels open, full of possibility. Every step brings you closer to something unknown, but that's part of the beauty of it. You don't know what lies ahead, but you know that you've earned the right to find out. The journey isn't over yet. It may be a long road, and there may still be danger, hardship, and uncertainty, but you've come this far, and that's something no one can take away from you. The story of your escape, of your survival, will stay with you no matter where you go or what happens next. You've survived the unimaginable, and now the future is yours to claim. So you keep moving, one step at a time. No longer a prisoner, no longer a soldier, just a man alive, moving toward whatever comes next. The air feels different now, doesn't it? It's sharper, colder, and yet, with each breath you take, you feel more alive than you've felt in years. The world around you is vast and empty, and as you continue forward, the sense of freedom that comes with being out here, beyond the camp's suffocating walls, takes root in your chest. But this freedom, this wild, wide open space, it's not something you can simply bask in. It's earned. It's not handed to you in a clean package wrapped with a bow. No, this is a freedom you fought for. Every day you were in that camp, every time you stared down another day of hunger or brutality, you were working for this moment. The world outside may be free, but it is also indifferent. You've learned that survival doesn't mean you'll always be comfortable. It's not about enjoying every moment. It's about living to see another day. The hunger that still rips at your insides, the cold that seeps into your bones, no matter how you try to fight it. These things are a part of the cost of survival. But here, you can endure. You can choose how you move forward, step by step, even when it feels like the wilderness itself is conspiring to stop you. The mountains loom before you, towering and silent, as if to remind you that freedom always comes with a price. The path ahead is uncertain, but in that uncertainty lies the beauty of being alive, of knowing that you control your destiny now. You're no longer a prisoner. You no longer belong to anyone or anything. And as you take in the vast landscape around you, you realize how much of it you've been craving. The wide expanse, the silence, the solitude. It's so different from the cramped barracks, the constant noise, the looming shadows of guards. Out here, it's just you and the wilderness sand. For the first time, you don't feel lost. But even as you embrace this new reality, you know it's not without its dangers. The wilderness doesn't care about your past, about the things you've survived. It offers no mercy. Still, you feel something new growing inside you, a confidence that wasn't there when you first escaped. That voice in your head, the one that whispers of failure, of doom, that voice is quieter now. It still exists, but it's easier to ignore. As the sun starts to set behind the peaks, the world around you transforms. The sky fades to dusky pink and purple, and the air cools rapidly. You find shelter in a small grove where the trees are thick and provide some protection from the wind. The world around you is quiet. Now there's no hum of machinery, no clattering boots, no distant calls of orders in a foreign tongue. There's just the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves and the soft crunch of snow beneath your boots. Tonight, you rest. Your body is worn, every muscle aching from the constant motion, from the relentless climb of the mountains. Your stomach is still empty, but there's something almost peaceful about this place. The hunger no longer feels like it will break. It's simply a reminder that you've survived to this point. The emptiness has become part of the journey, not the enemy. As you sit by your small fire, a thought crosses your mind. How far can you really go? The mountains ahead, with their frozen peaks, may be difficult to cross. You've heard stories about men who thought they could outlast the wilderness, only to be undone by the unforgiving terrain. You know that the real danger is not in escaping the camp, but in what lies beyond it. The world outside is wild, untamed, and you're only one man in a land that doesn't care for you. But then you remind yourself of the most important lesson you've learned. You are stronger than you thought. Every day that you've survived has been a testament to your strength. You've endured hardship, starvation, fear, and violence, and yet here you are, live, with the world at your feet. The camp was only the beginning. This journey, this test of will, is what comes next. The idea of crossing the mountains doesn't seem as impossible as it did when you first saw them. In fact, it almost feels like the next step in a path you've already chosen for yourself. You've escaped the camp, yes, but now you must escape the wilderness, and beyond that, the past. Tomorrow, you will continue. The uncertainty doesn't scare you anymore. In fact, it excites you. The unknown has become a challenge, not a threat. And as the last embers of your fire flicker out, you curl up in your makeshift shelter, the night cold around you, but your mind is warm with the knowledge that the hardest part of the journey is already behind you. The camp, the soldiers, the hunger, the fear, those things are in the past now. All that remains is you and the open world. And for the first time, you understand that you can face whatever comes next. The morning light is soft but biting. As the sun rises over the mountain peaks, the wind picks up again, sharper, colder. You've learned to read the weather out here, the way the light changes with the day, the direction of the wind, the feel of the air before a storm. You can feel the intensity of the cold now, a reminder that the wilderness doesn't forgive, but you've survived, and the day ahead, though filled with unknowns, is something you can face. You take one last look at the grove where you spent the night. Its trees standing tall like sentinels, their snow-dusted branches heavy with the morning's chill. It's quiet, here too quiet, but there's no time to linger. You've become used to moving quickly, adapting to each new challenge, each change in the landscape. The mountains loom ahead, their jagged peaks barely visible through the mist, and for a moment you allow yourself to pause, to take in the view. This is freedom, not the freedom you imagined in the camp, not the idealistic dreams of escaping it, something more raw, more real. It's the freedom of knowing that you are in control of your own destiny now. The path may be treacherous, and the odds may be stacked against you, but for the first time, you realize that it's your journey. It's yours to define. As you pack your things and move forward, you know that the hardest parts of your journey are yet to come. The wilderness won't show you mercy, and the mountains will test your limits. But you've come this far by making it one step at a time. You've survived this long because you refused to let go of hope. The hunger is still there, gnawing at you, but it no longer consumes you. You're learning to live with it, just as you've learned to live with the cold, the isolation, the ever-present fear that the world around you could collapse at any moment. But there's something else inside you now, a strength not just of body, but of mind, a resolve that wasn't there when you first stepped into the camp. You've had to adapt, to grow stronger with each passing day, and in doing so, you've become someone different, the man you were. In that camp, the soldier, fighting for a cause that felt distant and unclear, is no longer who you are. You've survived the worst of it. And now, out here in the wilderness, in the open world, you're learning who you really are. The day stretches on, and as you move through the rocky terrain, you find yourself thinking about the men who didn't make it, the ones you left behind. Some of them died in the camp, some in the chaos of the war. But there are others, Tootha men who gave up, who lost their will to survive. You think of them and feel a pang of guilt, but also a quiet respect. They were part of your journey too. And now, as you move forward, you realize that the road ahead isn't just yours to walk alone. The memories of those you've lost will always be with you. Their spirits will guide you when things get too hard, when the weight of survival seems too much to bear. Night falls quickly in the mountains, and as you set up camp for the evening, you reflect on the path you've taken. The fire crackles quietly, its warmth a small comfort in the vastness of the cold wilderness. The hunger is worse now, and you're starting to feel the weight of it, but you keep going. You've faced worse. You remind yourself the bitter cold of the camp, the constant threat of death, the days without food. You've survived it all. A few more days without a proper meal won't break you. There's a silence that settles in the night, a quiet that's almost peaceful. For a moment, You allow yourself to feel it, to feel the absence of the camp, the absence of the guards, the absence of the fear that once followed you everywhere. You're free, truly free, and it feels both terrifying and liberating. The world is vast, and you're just one person in it, but you know that you have the power to make it. Tomorrow, the mountains will still be ahead of you. The challenges will continue. But for now, you rest, knowing that you've already come so much further than you thought possible. And tomorrow, you'll take another step. Because no matter how long this journey takes, no matter how many mountains you must climb, you will survive. You will keep moving forward, and that, in the end, is all that matters. As the journey winds to a close, you find yourself at the edge of a new world, one that is wide open, uncertain, but full of possibility. You've walked through the shadows of fear and hunger, but now, with every step you take forward, you feel the weight of the past begin to lift. The harsh, endless cold of captivity has been replaced by the chill of the wilderness. But there's a warmth that's starting to build inside you, a warmth that comes not from the world around you, but from the knowledge that you survived, that you made it. The path ahead is still unknown, the risks still very real. But for the first time in a long time, you feel the strength to face it. It's the strength of someone who's been broken and rebuilt, who's lost everything and yet found something greater in the process. Freedom isn't just a destination. It's the journey itself. As the stars fade into the light of dawn, the world is quieter now. The noise of survival, the fear of the guards, the weight of the camp, all of that is slipping away with each passing moment. It's no longer about surviving captivity. It's about living, truly living. So, for now, you take a deep breath, feeling the crisp air fill your lungs, and you move forward. The past will always be a part of you, but it doesn't define you anymore. The road ahead may be long, and you may still face struggles, but you know now that you have the strength to survive whatever comes. And as the sun rises higher, you embrace the uncertainty of tomorrow, knowing you've earned your freedom and nothing, not even the wild, can take that away from you.